Check the mic 1 2 1 2. Here we are. I'm the Zen. This is the Zen video. We've been away for 2 weeks. This is the Art Professor's podcast, and I'm glad to be back. And I do have glasses now. How do I look? I'm glasses guy. I use them for reading. It's like HD now when I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, oh my God, I can actually see stuff on my phone again. There's a little bit of correction for distance. It's a little bit sharper, but I have pretty good distance, but they're progressive bifocals. So, yeah, they're interesting to wear. I'm still learning on how to wear them, but this is what I got. I like the style, I like what I got. They fit pretty comfortably. But now I'm glasses. I was telling my students I'll probably be this guy a lot, the glasses on top of the head guy. And then when I need to read and stuff, because they are a little, it's weird. It's like I gotta be like kind of stationary at this point because when I'm moving around, it's like as those of you that probably wear glasses on the regular know this effect, how it's kind of the peripheral is just all warped and stuff, and so it kind of can be kind of awkward. But when I'm working, it's got the blue light filter too, so it's good for, I guess, looking at screens and things like that. So if I'm working, I can use them, but if I'm moving around a lot, it's like my eyes don't like it probably. So anyways, glasses guy, check me out. It's good to be back. The main reason is, so this is episode 92. For anybody that's catching this for the first time, I'll talk about why I haven't been around in the last couple of weeks in a moment, but I'm an art professor, teaching at Rochester Institute of Technology. This is my second year at RIT in Rochester, New York. We 2 years ago, I was at Northwest Missouri State University. 3 years ago, I was at San Diego State University. 4 years ago, I guess now, is when I graduated with my MFA from San Diego State University. Did a 3-year program there. Many years before that, I went to the University of Washington, got my undergrad there in fiber arts, and I got my graduate in sort of, knowledge of graphic design, but also very interdisciplinary and very just be an artist mindset with my graduate program. And I said, I think last time I recorded, I was like, now that I'm kind of in this a little bit more, just seeing from the experiences that I've had, I'm really thankful I had the graduate program I did, because not all graduate programs are created equal. I kind of lucked out that it was a very be an artist focused, and it was the way that I navigated through the program. I was able to be very independent with my research and how I approached it, and it wasn't like go to class, which some graduate programs seem to be modeled very much off of a go to class aspect, go to like a elevated sort of trying to elevate the undergrad experience, which I don't think is if I'm designing a graduate program, I'm trying to get rid of classroom, go to class mentality. It's like, make work, let's gather and share our experiences, but it's not about classes in a sense. I mean, there are maybe topics, maybe you need some kind of structural framework for this so everybody's just not running around crazy. But I feel like what I've seen is there's too many graduate programs that just try to like take an undergrad experience and turn it into a grad experience and I just think it needs to be kind of clean slate. Yeah, maybe you definitely have graduates in undergrad classes, doing more, helping, doing different things, but it should be, there's just an approach that I think needs to be reevaluated with some programs. And because I think it's a disservice. I don't know. As those of you that have hung out with me on this podcast probably know by now, I'm like, man, we need to blow it up. And I'm realizing I'm very, very much in the minority blow it up in terms of the way the system of art school is run. It's like, I see all these, I mean, especially, I just want to bang my head against the wall with all these people that get on like this spaces that I'm on right now and tell, their experience of art school and they're telling an experience that's like, yeah, sure, that's what it is right now, but it's a broken system. And so they're trying to like fit this kind of concept into, this is what my art school experience was, And it's like, and this is what you should know going into art school and all these things. I'm like, throw all that out. Throw all that out, because it's all, I don't know. I'm not giving you very specifics because I'm just, and maybe I'm just too pretentious about it, the whole thing, but I just feel like there's much more space. We need to stop thinking of art school as careers and techniques in a lot of ways. I talked to somebody in my school. I could tell when I started talking that they're on the technique side of things more than I am. And yes, there is, and I've said this before, there's the sweet spot is what I'm looking for, of how much do you need to know them? How much do you need to make sure they know certain things about certain techniques in order to be able to be expressive and those kind of things? But I just think and I've said this over and over, I don't think enough professors, enough people, go beyond that enough. It's like they spend the class on technique, and it's like, okay, let's get it. Let's get that technique out of the way so that we can really think about stuff. But it's like over and over and over, technique, 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 technique. And it's like, who cares? Who cares if it's not done right either? That's the other thing about it. It's like, I want to promote students to think like, who gives a fuck if you didn't use the right, quote unquote, right technique, or use sort of wrong materials, or you use something that was, cheaper and it didn't quite work right or whatever. It's like, you did it in a slightly wrong order. Obviously, you don't want to like do anything that will harm yourself or other people, but I'm just thinking like, I don't know, you didn't gesso your canvas correctly, you didn't do your underpainting correctly, you didn't whatever, if thinking in that form, or you didn't do, like, who cares? Like, go explore, talk about it. I don't know. It's just, there's just something about it. But then when I was having these conversations, one of the things that I realized is, I was never taught techniques really. It's like what I've been realizing more and more as time goes on, and I've said this lots of times, is this whole thing is so intuitive to me. Just making is such an intuitive practice for me that it's like, I can just kind of like see what's happening and kind of pick it up and not always need to be told. I mean, I'm very much, there's a lot of my life where I need I need to be told, I need to see it, I need to read it. When I think about the broader kind of scope of learning, I very much need a lot of inputs to really understand things. But with this making of things and being, putting my hands into the work, I pick up on it so fast that it's like, that I think I miss a lot in terms of what other people might need. Because to me, it's so intuitive. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna be artists. Let's just make stuff. Let's just figure it out. Don't tell me. I'll just oh, you have this jar of stuff, and you have this jar of stuff, and you have this thing over here, and oh yeah, and I intuitively know how they are supposed to interact with each other, or maybe I glanced and saw. I'm like, if you ever seen that show, that movie Limitless, where they take the pill and they get all smarter and stuff, and like there's that one scene where he's like breaking down, how did I understand this was just some fleeting idea I saw one time, but now that I took this pill, I'm putting all these pieces together. That's what making art is like for me. It's like I just saw somebody like shift a bottle of something on their desk, and it's like, oh, they must be using that pretty regular. And it's like, and then I go into another space. It's like, oh yeah, that's that same bottle of stuff that was on their desk, and that must mean that's the stuff it's like I can kind of put those things together. And so I feel like I take for granted some of that, what maybe a lot of art school thinks important, of like this kind of some of this technique stuff and making sure people, so because that's the thing. It's like so many art students are doing it because they think they want to do it, they don't know they want to do it, or they don't have always have an intuitive kind of mindset around. I don't know, man. But I've also, I could be, I said a couple weeks ago, like, I could be full of shit with all this too, and I'm willing to own that. All the thoughts that, I gotta give myself a little bit of credit here, because there's like, I definitely feel something that's missing in my experience so far. It just feels like something's missing. And that's, I guess, as I'm thinking about it, talking about it, the realization is it's not that a big thing is missing. It's that there's a bunch of little things missing from each kind of environment. And so when these little things are missing, whether that be just straight up passion and dedication as a professor to the students, or organizational skills for your cohort of faculty, or you know pushing more of a conceptual mindset around the overall kind of concept of what it means to be an artist, and not getting caught up in techniques all the time, or there's so many potentially little things that when they're overlapping with each other and Venn diagramming all around, it starts to feel like a big thing's missing or something like that. So anyways, I had no idea I was going to go on that tangent, but now you got caught up. This is kind of the mindset of Zim and where I've been at in a little ways and what's going on. So we're teaching art now. We're making art. We're doing the thing. We're trying to make it happen. I'm reaching over to the camera a lot today because it's not light controlled in here, so as the clouds go across the sky, it changes things. So welcome, thanks for joining again. Glad you're here. I'm glad to be back. I missed this so much, but the reason I hadn't been doing it was because I've been straight up exhausted, so tired, so massively tired. Combination of things. For teaching 5 classes. I'm just going to say 5 classes now, full on 5 classes. I teach Monday through Friday. I teach 4 classes. I teach 2 classes Monday through Thursday, 1 class on Friday, 3-hour sessions. Friday's class is like 5 hours. And we've been using the whole time the last couple of weeks. And then my office hours are from 3 to 5 on Fridays, and I'm doing extra stuff with my office hours. And then of course, about my game streaming, and I do that. So I've been trying to make sure I maintain that. And so there's just a lot of, over the last few weeks, I've taken a few days off I'll email and message my community saying I can't stream tonight, everybody, sorry. The thing that, and maybe I mentioned this last time, or I mentioned it to somebody, the thing that frustrates me about, and it's, I don't know, I just hate the perception of an idea. When I say I'm not going to be able to game stream and be a part of that community, people are like, oh, it's no problem. Do what you need to do, maintain your health and blah, 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 things like that. And there's nothing, I appreciate their kind of that sentiment of that concept, but if anything special and it's the same thing with everything. If anything special is going to come out of any of this, you have to fucking go. And so it's like, do it. So if I'm taking time off, it's preventing anything from happening. So it's like, it's just so massively frustrating. And I was just actually talking to another student about this concept the other day. Sometimes you need to chill, but because you want to do more, you're ready. You're like, you're wired to be the most. You're not wired to be the least. And I'm wired, I feel like, in a lot of ways, to be the most I can be. And if I can't do it, then it prevents me from being able to do it in the future, even, because it's like, you need to keep going. And it's like one of the things that's, with the state of our world, where we're in, we're trapped. You could decide whatever. Maybe you have whatever someone else's life is like doesn't seem to match with mine, because the idea of where we're at right now, in order to not starve and not have things not happen and just be kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but you have to go. And I know it sucks. It's shitty that you have to make like content every day. You have to do something every day. You have to create, make, share, do the thing all the time. and if you're blessed with good looks, and if you're blessed with some money that you've gotten in your life for some reason, so you're able to kind of use other things to help support the kind of concept, then hey, that's all the power to you. This guy doesn't have either of those things. So all I got is my time and desire and passion to fucking do shit. So it's like, and that's all I got. So when I can't do that because I'm tired, it's like, fuck, what else do I have? I'm just stuck in this stupid situation. But anyways, so whenever I need to take time off, it's really frustrating because it's like, God damn it, that's just one more day farther away from the possibility of something happening that makes me feel good about my life. So that's kind of, I don't know. That's sort of where we are with that. So I've been really tired. I've been straight up exhausted. I've talked about it before. This 5 classes is too much for me. I kind of shot myself in the foot for next semester because I decided I'm not going to try to do the overload. I don't think I need to because I managed to pay off. So I think I might have talked about this last time, but I cashed out the retirement fund I had from RIT, and that got like $4,500, like almost $5,000 out of it, and paid off my credit cards. So I'm like, I don't have those credit cards anymore. Thank God. My school loan that was going to have to start paying this next March, I got an email like last week and logged into it. They said it's been pushed out like another year and a half. So I don't even have to worry about that for a little bit longer. So thank God for that. So right now, the only debt that I have that's like a credit debt is I have one account in collections that I don't even actually know how much I owe on it, but I've just been paying $25 a month for like the last 3 years just to be like, I can't afford more right now, but here's $25. And then I'm also paying money toward my sort of a debt. I mean, it is a debt, but this is another thing I don't know. It's like an endless debt, but I'm paying money to my ex-wife for past expenses with my kids because I wasn't able to pay money in the moment when things came up. So there's this potential running tally. The thing that I'm worried about, that I don't know, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm just paying $200 a month toward that, and trying to make that happen, as you know, stay somewhat responsible with those things. So why did I bring that up? Because I don't think I'll need the overload course for the money because I'm not paying toward my credit cards anymore. So that money can go toward my rent, because that's the main reason I needed the overload, was to pay for rent. And so things are going all right in that direction. This brings us up to, did I finish my thought about being exhausted? Because I wrote down it's a different kind of terrible. Because in the previous years, my terribleness of like the kind of mental kind of like, was mainly the newness. 2 years ago, it was being at Northwest Missouri, teaching 4+ classes like I am now, lots, but the focus was just on hanging on to teach the classes, like understanding the kind of how to be our professor, and so the amount of work like I am now didn't affect me the same way. Like last year was similar because it was a new experience, new space. Now that I'm kind of settling, I'm like my 4th year of teaching outside of graduate school. I'm feeling very, 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 I was thinking about this too, I was going to talk about today, feeling very confident about that part, like the kind of being an art professor. I was thinking 4 years. It's like the advice I'll give if anybody's watching this that's thinking about this journey. And it's obviously different for everybody, but for me, 4 years. 4 years is what it took to feel comfortable. Like at this point, I feel like I'm good, in terms of put me in any environment, put me in any school, I know sort of all the little pieces that I have to be aware, or not all of them, but a lot of the pieces I need to be aware of, how to put my classes together, how to, navigate different systems, who to talk to, what's going on. If I do tenure track, I know what that might look like. I know how it kind of works. I know the politics. I know the nuance, some of the more of the nuances. I'm just getting better with my grading, which we'll talk about today a little bit more, and those kind of concepts. So 4 years. So if you're getting started on your journey as an art professor, give yourself 4 years before you freak out. Allow yourself to just settle in, understand things, and by the 4th year, if you're still really out of it, then maybe it's not the right thing for you. But I don't know. But again, it's different for everybody. Definitely more than 1 year, no question about it. And for me, like moving, like maybe 3 years if you're in one spot if that's just where you're gonna be. But since I've bounced around, and my first year was basically adjunct, second year was full-time, third year was a new school, and then this is my 4th year repeating, being in one environment, but also having all that information from the last 3 years to kind of inform what's going on. So it's a different kind of terrible. It's just feeling exhausted, and it's really hard. Like I recognized. And there's other things going on. I have like my TMJ, which I've told you about. I have some tooth issue that I have to get checked out. I've just been my sinuses has just been felt like all messed up the last couple of weeks. And so like this pressure in my brain has just been weird. And just like, I don't know, just obviously just getting older and aches and pains, not having a car. Like there's just stacks of things of how it's, but just the workload itself, the mental workload of figuring out this, and the way that I dedicate myself to the process and going like, I'm trying to do the most. I want to make sure I'm accountable to my students. I want to make sure I'm not just letting the system take care of it. If there's a student that needs extra support, I want to reach out to them and say, hey, let's meet up. Let's do something. I'm trying to do that as much as I can. I'm realizing to be able to do it to the level that I want to do it, 4 classes, 5 classes is too many. You can't do it with that. Like the more classes you have, that's what gets sacrificed, is the ability to connect with the students on a more individual basis. And so I don't like it. I don't want it. I'd much rather teach less classes, but be able to give the students a very like solid connection with what we're trying to do versus just show up, mark attendance, and do the minimum because I just can't contain enough. And I don't like it. I'm not a fan. But it's like it's like what's happening. And then I noticed with all that stuff I just described, the class load, the health issues, the life issues, I was really cranky lately. I've been really frustrated and cranky, and I was thinking like, why do I hate life right now so much? And I was like, oh, I'm exhausted. I'm straight up exhausted. And so it's like, and I just haven't been able to, there hasn't been really enough time to get caught up in a way, because 2 days on a weekend isn't enough, because oftentimes the weekend gets used up with some grading and other things I need to do. So it's like there's like only a few hours per weekend that I get any recovery in a sense, like this weekend. And then obviously with the other stuff, like this takes up time. That's part of why I wasn't able to do my podcast over the last 2 weekends, because I was like, I can't fit it in. I'm too exhausted. I need to do grading. I need to do other things. And unfortunately, something like this gets chopped off, which is something that I go back to what I was complaining about 10 minutes ago. It's like, well, this is the thing that's like, I have to keep doing, I feel like, in order for the life that I want to be able to be so it's like, fuck, it's like, it's so frustrating. What's the way my life is, just basically. So exhausting. All right. So that's what's going on. I don't know, man. I'll just move on now. Okay. One thing we've been doing the last couple weeks is updating you on where we're at with YouTube and where we're at with this car fund. I have some numbers. I'll just go with the numbers I had last night. right now, and on the screen you'll see, I think on this side is the YouTube and on that side is the car fund. So we're trying to raise money for a new car. If you can support, please do. Super thank on this video. In the description there's Venmo, PayPal, any amount you can. $1, $2, $10, $5, $100. Please consider if supporting, if you've been enjoying the content. So we're currently, we have, I don't know how I do the number, but we have $3,773 in the bank, in a sense. Some of that's still on its way through YouTube and things like that, but we need 6,227 more to get to our $10,000 goal, which we actually need like 15,000. I did some math. I went to one of those financing calculators on one of the car sites, and it's like, God damn it, because my goal is to get my payments under $300 a month. So if I'm getting like, basically the Kia or the Hyundai Kona is like $30,000. So and I was putting in and that's all with good credit and others. So there's like a lot of factors involved, and getting the specific, like the models and things like the fluctuation. So if 10,000 might not be enough to cut it. So I don't know, just trying to get to that goal, and then we'll see where we're at once we hit that goal and how long it might take to get, because the bottom line is I'm trying to get this car. I'd really like to get this car before like January, the first month, like January 2026, around there, December if possible. So that's that. So with our subscriber count, we're doing pretty darn good. The last few weeks we've actually been able to get a few more subs kind of coming through on the regular. Like it says, over the last 28 days we've gotten about 154 subs, so that's good. It dropped down below 100 for a while a couple weeks ago, but right now we're getting more subs. It says there's 9,833, so that means there's 167. We need 167 more subscribers to get to our 10,000 subscriber goal, which I'm really excited about. We should be there by December, I imagine. What's October, November? Ooh, this month. Yeah, I mean, we should totally be there because it said 154 in the last 28 days. So if anything remotely stays the same, before the new year, we should get it by sometime in December. And then between December, when I'm on my winter break from school, we'll do a 10,000 subscriber event, and we'll maybe do some giveaways. We'll do a long live stream. We'll just have a good time with it. All right, moving on. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, grading examples. I'm going to switch this view. For those of you that are just listening, we're going to be looking at stuff on the screen, so I'll try to describe it as best I can. Oh, that's my YouTube. All right, so last couple weeks ago I said I was going to give you a little bit of a more thorough breakdown of how I'm developing my grading. So let me start with a assignment sort of introduction in a way. This is the way I introduce the assignments. So we use this software called My Courses, and it's all right. It's kind of like Canvas, if you're familiar with that, Blackboard, those kind of things. So in My Courses, I put the assignment in here. This is one of the first projects for my Digital Illustration 1 class. I told you in the past that I'd like to, thinking about concept with assignments, I like to wrap the idea of the assignment around a higher thought process. So we're trying to make high contrast images. And one of the artists that I know about that does high contrast images is Kara Walker. And Kara Walker is also a Black artist, so it's bringing in more diversity into the concept. So I call the project the Kara Walker Self-Portrait Vinyl Cut. So it's doing a few things. It's exposing the students to artists they may not have known about. It's exposed, and then it's doing a bunch of stuff. It's also this project in particular is a foundation beginning level Adobe Illustrator project or vector graphic project. And we're using it to make a vinyl cut, which is just using a plotting machine. So we're doing really simple designs because it's just black and white, but we're also like elevating the thought of it, of taking it outside of the computer. So we're not just stuck in the computer. So we're like designing in the computer, being digital illustrators, but we're taking it outside of that. We're also thinking about the greater art world in Kara Walker. So anyways, that's kind of like how I started. And then I kind of describe it. I've gotten some feedback that, so at the beginning, I kind of sort of try to describe the project in this front section. I put some links to different kind of inspirations in there. And then I say, I have this section of like due dates and what you will share. All my projects, for the most part, break into 3 sections. I do a research section. They have to present the work. They have to present their research. They research, they sketch, they kind of develop their ideas. It's kind of like the sketching phase of the project. It's like the gathering of information phase of the project, but they have to present that. And then after they get feedback on that, they check back in about 50% of the way through the project. It's amorphous. It kind of breaks up. Some students only made it like 20%. Some students, it's all over. And then it's not necessarily a singular date either. I'm not as strict about dates. I just like work. And if something came up, fine, just bring it the next class. Just work, I don't care what date it was due. I want you to actually dedicate to the concept of the project. In this particular case, I have another like final sort of, is the image done, because you need time to send it to the Fab Lab to get it made. So sometimes if it's just purely digital, then we can jump straight to the final. But this one, I want to make sure their image is done. And then they do a final presentation where hopefully they have done their project, like physically brought it back, but they present like from the beginning to the end, like how they develop the project. I have them research artists. I have them, they need to use reference for their images. Like in the first phase, they're like, this is my idea. It's like, great. So now that you have that idea, you should be looking at more specific references to help you build that idea, whether that be artistic, but especially in RIT, I'm learning, especially as an illustrator, like observational references. Like if you're using a mug, you should have pictures of mugs that you're looking at in your work. So yeah. So, and then in that final presentation, you should show, all those things that you evolved through the process of this. So then I have this basically a checklist of, these are the things you need to complete in order to get the highest marks on this grade, a bunch of things. And then I take that kind of list of things, and there's work. I'll not say there's not more work for me to maybe make this more concise in a way, or changes, or think about what I'm about to show you, which is I'll take this list and then go into, when I'm grading, I take this list and I drop it into a Word document basically. And so it's kind of the same idea. I condense what each section was, all those bullet points. I just condensed it as the basic idea. What was it? Did you put a self-portrait in this project? Did you present all your work to the class? And then so the degree of effort. So I put a list like this together, and then underneath each of these is where I write out things. So there's no points at all. It's all quality of effort in a sense, and so and level of completion. And so there's no point. So then I go down the list of all the things that were required. Some of them are just very basic, yes, no type things, completed, incomplete, needs improvement kind of things. This particular student, I took their name off, but they got an A for the project. Oftentimes the first part is where the bulk of the feedback is just like this overall kind of idea. This particular case, they did a great job. They didn't need additional feedback because there's so much feedback we give in class. So I just refer to, hey, you got all your feedback in class. I don't need to add more here. Just remember it. Hopefully they're writing notes down, then I don't need to rewrite everything that they've already heard. But then I just go down. Did you check the boxes essentially and on the level of completion? And if they didn't quite do it correctly, then I give them feedback on, oh, it looks like you missed an opportunity to kind of work this area of the project more. That doesn't necessarily deduct a score. It's like, oh, you did good work, but this part of it wasn't quite what I expected. And I just want to point that out. It doesn't always align with, you didn't do that, so I'm going to knock your grade. It's just like, hey, make sure you read the instructions next time, those kind of things. But this is like the first project of the class. So as I give feedback, I complete this feedback chart in a sense. I will then copy this whole thing. I usually work in a Word document like I am right here. I copy that and then I paste it into my courses so they see all this feedback. and just how they did it. And then it just keeps me kind of organized thinking about it. Like, and this may be basic, like some other professors. I mean, some people may have already, I mean, this feels like this is something that somebody else has already doing in a way, but the thing is, I think that makes it stand out for me is that the lack of point systems. Like, I'm not trying to align this with points. I like to look, and I've said this before, I like to look at the work and go, that's an ABC. And then I go, so I give myself the opportunity, like how I want to give this project an A. I want to give this project a B. So I go through this and look for opportunities. So it's not like it's different for every student, it's like, yeah, I'm giving you a B because you failed here. And because combination of maybe you just look like you didn't even give a fuck when you were working on it. So if a student failed at the same spot, but looked like they're actually trying, it won't dock them. And so I can kind of like, I don't need to put points on anything. It's just like, most students like, yeah, I really didn't try on that spot. So of course I got a B. But another student says, oh, I didn't try. Oh, I totally forgot. Oh, I didn't mean to miss that. But and so it's kind of like, but they still got an A. So it's like, it's like I allow each student. So when I don't put points on things, it doesn't force my hand to go in a direction of certain grades. And not to say I would have to anyway, but it's like, it's more about this overall feedback. And it does take more time. I don't know, maybe it doesn't take more time. It feels to me like it could take more time. And that's going back to what I said before, teaching 5 classes can be crazy, And I think that's basically it with how I've been developing my grading. But this kind of list of, checklist in a sense for me has been the game changer for me in terms of like, okay, at the end of each assignment, there's this list of things. Did you kind of do it? At what degree of quality did you do it? And then I kind of stir that all up and go like, you deserve an A, B, or C based on that kind of stirring of this information. So let me know if you have any more questions about that. And maybe you're like, dude, then why weren't you doing that before? Hey, live and learn, right? You takes time to figure things out sometimes. And I've just been figuring it out as I've been going. How did I do it before? Basically before it was just like, I wouldn't necessarily I didn't have the list. It was essentially the same thing, but I would just kind of just write it all in a box. I would do a lot of writing in that, like the first, just a lot of writing, and then kind of go like, well, this is why you got what you did. But now that I'm sort of breaking it down in this list, like it just makes it so much easier for me to get to that grade. And then the students can really see where they miss things and things. And honestly, I mean, this semester in particular, there's going to be a lot of A's. There's just going to be a lot of A's just because the students are doing enough for me, and that's just like arts. I don't need to nitpick it's like, sure, maybe they're not doing it the way a professional illustrator might do it, but they're there, they're showing up. And so I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not totally, I don't know. I'm just not worried about trying to find ways that part of me is trying to find ways to, because I don't want this is my biggest fear. And I've talked about this before, not biggest fear. This is a fear of mine, is like, if a whole class gets A's and somebody says, why did your whole class get A's? It's like, well, because they did. And that's part of this too. It's like, I'm documenting everything. Like, I don't have, so when they say, well, this is why, because they did enough for me, you can look at all so I save this like large, so at different stages, so the 3 stages of the assignment, the first stage of the research and the last stage of the final kind of share are the letter grades, and then the middle portion is usually just a pass fail. Did you show us your progress? There's no like, you got an A out of that. It's just like pass fail. And then so I just, do this process that I just showed you for the first part and the second part. And then I have it all documented, and I can just show anybody that asks, like, well, this is what I wrote to them. And it's more important that I might have given them an A, even though their work might not have been that great, but it's not important. It's like, I gave them the feedback. That's what's important. The feedback's what's important, not the letter grade. And so it's like, I gave them the feedback of where they can improve, but I didn't feel like they needed to get docked to a B or C because of these ideas, you know? And so that's just kind of where my mindset is around some of this stuff. Is like, I'd rather just give feedback than a letter, than a grade, you know? But I know we're stuck in the system of, because that's the other thing. The professors that want, maybe, I don't know, I'm being massively presumptuous here, but the professors that rely on the grade because they don't want to give the feedback, you know, potentially. They just like, they don't want to sit down and write and find out and investigate this relationship with the student and investigate why they might have be navigating this class the way they are. It's like they just want to be able to go like, well, check, 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 check. Oh, it looks like they got a C because of these check boxes. And it's like, well, that's, I don't know. I just feel like there's a, I don't know, man. It just feels like there's an element of that. It's like, let's just talk. This student's kind of doesn't seem to be doing great. Let me see if I can be around them a little bit more. Let me talk to them a little bit more. Let me just engage with them. Let me like praise them when they do things better. Like I have one student I'm thinking about right now who kind of comes in late sometimes and different things, but it's like, but I'm staying with them. I'm communicating. They've come to my office a few times and I'm like, oh, this is great. So somewhere along the lines, even though maybe in class they're not kind of showing up, but they make the effort to come outside of class and catch up on things. And so to me, that's awesome, you know? So if I get caught up on whether did it in class, then I don't know. It's just, I'm like, and so when I see them being successful, I just try to praise them on that. And maybe that will inspire them to show up more as well, you know, in class. You know, it's like, so I look for opportunities to kind of, I love to praise my students when they rock, you know, I love it. I'm like, this is awesome. You know, I'm like, this is great, you know, and then I'm trying to find, like, I actually, you know, every once in a while I give a student a hard time, and I gave a student a hard time in front of the entire class yesterday or a couple of days ago. They didn't, I realized there was a little bit of misunderstanding of the concept, but so we're doing this kind of poster project right now, and I wanted them to emphasize scale in their work, like something big, medium, and small, in this kind of composition, like shape of things, are something's big taking over a lot of the space, something's medium taking over, you know, and then something small with details. And they interpreted it as conceptually big, like mountains are big and they're in the composition. It's like, no, your mountains are in the background and they're small. So it's like, we want the mountain or the object to be big on the page. So we kind of figured that out. But what I kind of confronted them with in the class was, you got a bunch of feedback last time we looked at this and nothing changed. And I was like, you didn't change really anything. I mean, there was probably some minor tweaks, but in terms of the overall kind of like intention of this big, medium, and small, this idea of, it's like, you didn't change anything. It's the same exact composition. It's like, you know, and so I was like, I said it, I was like, I'm going to give you a hard time right now. So, and we worked it out, and I don't think he was like offended by it or anything, but I think that also showed the class in a way, even though I don't tend to be, I'm not a hard ass, you know, like critique. I'm not trying to rip students down. I'm always trying to build them up more than, you know, and find ways to critically like get them to think about their ideas without saying, that's like, why'd you do that? Or whatever. I don't know how a professor would do it to rip something down, because you hear that all the time about art schools from like 40 years ago. Because it was even before when I went to art school, and maybe it still happens in some places where professors are just like, this is a piece of shit, blah, 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 whatever. I'm just not like that. I'm like, okay, well, this is what you made. How can we improve it? You know, it's like, think about contrast, think about color, form, light, blah, 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 blah. You know, like, you know, what can we do? And try to like lead them into thinking about their work without like making them feel like terrible for it, hopefully. And so, but, you know, every once in a while, I'm like, you didn't do it right, to everybody. And so maybe that helps me get the respect of the class that, oh, we should make sure he's not just a pushover, but I don't know. I've heard, and I've talked about this before, I've heard from other professors that I walk down the halls and stuff, and people will be like, Tim, your students think you're a hard ass. I'm like, how is that possible? I don't know. But it's just each student's different. They hear it different. What I think, the students that don't like me are the ones that are always looking for excuses sort of not to work, right? They're looking for, because I think, and I've said this before, I think that what makes it feel like I'm a hard ass is that I cut off excuses from the beginning. Like when I introduce a project, I'm like, it's like, and so they don't have some outs that they might normally have for their other how they navigate their life. And I'm like, yeah, just time manage, yo. It's like, or whatever. And so that's what I think about that. All right, so a couple things. Three more. I got 3 more things on my list, and then we'll be ending for the day. We got 46 minutes or so into the podcast. I have my grade books, as I told you about. They've been working out amazing. Really, really, really happy with the grade books. Couple things I've noticed, and maybe I've mentioned this before. Like, here's a page. I'll kind of cover the names up. So you can kind of see there's a little boxes I made. There's check marks. So I want to make more boxes and things in the little grid that I have that I can assign to certain things. Because I'm noticing how I'm using it. So it's pretty cool. The other thing that I've noticed is, and this doesn't, I don't know, I didn't really need to show the grade books, but it's about the participant. So on the column, there's a column inside with participation for certain projects. The way I thought I would do it, and I'm going to revamp it now. Like I need to figure out a time to like just change it up and email my students, because it's way too hard to track participation per project and breaking it up as like so broken up. I need to just do it as like, I kind of add up the total, sort of what the potential total number of participation days there are, which also is weird because I was saying, like I said during when I was showing the assignment, like even though this 50% is due on this date, it tends to get spread out. Like some students are sick or not there or didn't show up, and so it's like, okay, that's another day somebody has for participation, like other students to comment on their work. So it just kind of like builds out. So like where at the beginning of the semester it seemed like, oh, there's 3 spots to be participation for every assignment. Let's just say every assignment is broken into 3 sections. You have 3 opportunities to comment on someone else's work. And it's a participation grade. But that middle one, or even like all 3 of those spots sometimes get spread out because the student, so they need to share their research at a different time. And so then it becomes 6 to 7 to 8 opportunities. And so what I need to do is just kind of sort of arbitrarily, in a sense, go like, okay, there's this. So every assignment you get 3, probably stretch out to about 5 or 6. And then there's other opportunities, and then just kind of add all those up and go like, okay, so maybe there's 30 date opportunities for participation or something. And maybe that's more than, so there's 16 weeks. There's like 2 days per classes per week. So that's about 32 or whatever it is. So maybe it's just like the days, and I just go down. So I pick some arbitrary number. I say 10, you need 10 participation points for the entire semester. So you need to, at some point, you need to talk about something else, and then I'll mark, and then I go back and flip through and count up all the days. Some of them will have 30, some of them will have 2, because there are some students that seem to refuse to talk about anything. So that's the way I need to do it, versus breaking them up into individual kind of like things. Just an overall, you need to participate 10 times in the semester. And I think, that should work out, because anyways, so that's the participation grade part of it that I need to change. I'm going to change it now, but I'm also going to change it for next semester. The cheat code I put down here, the cheat code that I've discovered for kind of my classes for me to make them easier to kind of get the students engaged in a way is making exhibitions of the work. Don't just make the work that you share in class. Go like, we are gonna, if you have a gallery, if you have a student gallery that you're allowed to check out, you say, or an install gallery, or there's hallway galleries, or there's places you can share the work with the greater community. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but I've kind of just, it clicked over into a new kind of space for me. If there's, going like, let's make sure the students all of them have to share their work publicly. It shifts a mindset around the work for the students. It shifts, and then it's more of an experiential thing. So like this semester in 2 of my classes, and I want to do this more because I'm just realizing it now, but in 2 of my classes, which are the same class, 2 sections of the same class, next week, which I'll show you on the podcast, we're doing I reserved out the installation room. A lot of colleges, San Diego State had one. I don't think Northwest Missouri had one, but San Diego State had one, and they have one at RIT where it's basically like a pseudo gallery setting, white walled space that students and others can use to kind of set up their work to make it look like it might look in a gallery. So I reserved this space, and we're going to set up tomorrow. I'm actually going down to set up the space so that we can cut through the chase a little bit. And then as the class, we're going to curate where each piece will hang, but they're not actually having to measure out like where the hang holes are. It's like, I'm going to do all that for them. It's just, they're just going to have to go like, okay, these 3 should be here. Those 2 should be there, blah, 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 and it'll basically be evenly spaced. They're all 24 by 36 posters that are going to be hanging around the room. There's going to be, so there's 28, potentially 28. There might be 2, 3 that don't quite make it in time. So, there'll be a few less potentially, but I feel pretty confident that most of the class will be ready because we only have a week. Monday is one class, Tuesday is the other class. So Wednesday through Thursday, when they'll all be up. And so I told them, if you basically don't have it printed by like Thursday morning, don't even bother because it's not going to be, it's not going to have enough time. And then it kind of throws off the curation aspect of it because then there'll be this one that just gets kind of thrown on the end versus fitting where it should kind of go. So yeah, but I'm really, really excited about it. And I'll show you about it next week. I'll probably be making short videos on my channel about it as well. And so look out for that. So I'm really excited, but that just kind of really got this ball rolling of like looking for opportunities to have. So next semester I'm teaching, so the classes I'm teaching next semester, I'm teaching Digital Illustration 1, which is mostly Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, Digital Illustration 2, which is mostly like Photoshop and other raster kind of ideas. But this is the one that we're doing it's activism posters that we're doing with this space and this class. So really trying to broaden concepts, as I'm trying to do with my teaching and stuff. So we're trying to stay conceptual with the work and making it have deep meaning for the individuals as the students. So that's next semester. I'm doing one of each section of those. And then I have this class called Sketchbook, which will be interesting. I figure out how to do that. I want to do it again conceptually. I want to have them, every week, there's like 16 weeks. Every week we will focus on a different way to use the sketchbook. But then there's 2 classes. So I want to do kind of the topic of the week. But then I want the students to present on an artist that uses a sketchbook and tell us about that artist and tell us about their work. And I want to make it a contemporary artist. And I want them to have to reach out to the artist and try to get a response from the artist. And as a class, we'll pick like, maybe 5 to 10 questions we come up with as a class that you'll ask each of these artists. And, and then maybe they can add some of their own. They can email them, they can maybe do a Zoom with them, they can whatever they do, but I want them to try to reach out to a living artist that does sketchbook work and talk about their sketchbook and what it means to them. So, and then to present that to the class as on the other day of the week. So one day will be mainly like the topic and drawing, and the other day will be mainly like kind of research and conceptualizing the greater art world. And that'll just be straight across. There won't be like assignments. It'll just be like every week's kind of bum, 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 bum. That way. Kind of make it easier on me. It's like basically show up, you know? And then the last class is what's called a personal focus, which is basically like a group independent study. But this is going back to what I was talking about. What I'm going to do in that class is the last month of the semester is basically 3 months. The last month of the semester, I booked these two cabinets, these two wide, big cabinets, and they're going to install their work in these cabinets to be up for. So the first 2 months, they have to be thinking about their own projects and how they're going to fit. And you have this much space, and I want them to really be intentional about each person has show off your work. Basically, I'm like hiring them, like I'm cold calling them and saying, I love your work, be in my gallery. And they have to bring work for the gallery. And so they have to think about the space they have to use. They have that. So there won't be a ton of space. It'll be like each student will probably have like 5 feet wide by like 10 feet tall area for them to potentially cover with how they want to share their work and what they're doing that semester, or whatever they, how they want to do it. So, and then it gets them, thinking about not just here all the time. It's like, how can this work exist as a visual, like as something physical in a way? And I think that'll be really exciting, and it'll just kind of change up. And then it gets every student to share, because one of the problems that I have with RIT, for what I've seen, is they curate what they're sharing way too much. It's like they only put the best stuff on the walls, and it's like, no, put everything. Get those students that are like not pulling their weight to feel, just to sweat a little bit and go like, because you have something right next to it that looks amazing, and you have something next to it that's like, it's like, man, step up your game, yo. And that's just one of the things I said. And that's this project that I'm doing right now with my Digital 2 class is like, I said that in class. We've had a bunch of students sharing that. It's like so great. I'm really excited about it. And some of the students were kind of lagging. I'm like, and I said, like, you just saw what your classmates are doing. Step up your game, because this is some amazing stuff. Like, let's make it happen. Like, do it. The bottom line is, I want the students to make just cool ass shit. I want them to. I don't want them to make stuff just because they have to. I want them to be like, oh, let me fucking do. So there's usually a point in the project. We do the research. We're pushing toward an idea. Then that's like point, like basically a week before the end, I'm like, okay, now throw out everything I just told you and just make shit. Make it cool. Make it something you want to make. Make it something that looks dynamic and awesome. At this point, you've got enough. You've been kind of pushed the direction of the assignment, but don't get caught up on the assignment. Don't get caught up on whatever. Just if you make it look badass, then we're good, And so, yeah, anyways, that's kind of that. Last thing, couple last things, 2 more things to share with you today. In the background, I have my No Kings. So we went to the No Kings protest. This is my rolling into political stuff. So I went to the No Kings protest a couple weeks ago. No Kings demonstration, protest, whatever you want to call it. And I made this poster idea. There's 2 of them, and I put them on a stick and double-sided it so I could carry it around and you could see it from both sides. If you don't know, this is the K-pop Demon Hunters. Awesome pop culture reference. As you see just in my work next to it, that's what I do. I use pop culture a lot of times and trying to subvert the messaging to kind of be what I want it to be. So it's the same idea here. It's like in the pop culture of the K-pop Demon Hunters, they really popular right now, and the kind of show itself, the movie, was about fighting against the bad guys. So it's like using these heroines to fight against the the bad oppressive policies that are happening right now, and using the reference from the movie and ideas, the gold like lines represent the Hanmun, which is like this protective barrier. So it was really fun. It was really fun to make it and share it because it got the responses that I expected to get. Walking down, there's a bunch of people my age that had no idea. They were like, they'd look at it and be like, huh? And then the coolest thing was when I'd walk. I intentionally walked around because I wanted people to see it. You know, I wanted to be there to support the idea. This concept of the protests as being like, if you have this thought of it being dangerous or militant or anything like that, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's a celebration. It's joy. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But so I wanted to celebrate the art and fun and have that and just be as community and do that thing and be a part of that. So I walked around to get more people because I wanted to show off my sign. I wasn't just going to be like stand there without showing off my sign. And the what I expected to happen happened. Older people didn't get it. Younger people that were there got it, but emphatically got it. They were like, "Oh my God, that's the best sign!" You know, like they would get yelling. They were doing that kind of stuff, and I loved it. And then what happened because of that is older people would get more confused. They like didn't understand it. Just they saw no kings. Probably they're like, "Oh, cool sign," you know. But then they're kind of like, "I don't know why there's these 3 girls on it. I don't know what that all means." But then when some younger person was like, "That's the best sign," really loud, the older person would be even more like, it's okay, I guess. I loved it. Anyways, it was cool. So I made the thing. It was kind of an inspiration. Like I was thinking about doing that concept, but on a larger scale. But I don't think I'm going to do that because I have a new idea, which I'll tell you about in a second, that I'm going to start working on coming December. So I'm going to start making artwork again once winter break comes, and I'll tell you about that. But just to talk about the No Kings, one of the things that's interesting that this is where I'm at. So the bulk of people there were sort of older than me, you know, like, or my age or older. But a lot of older people, some younger people, and then a mix of like middle-aged or whatever, you know. But it's like we are no threat. We are no threat to like a fort, like a police force, you know? And so to think that like an ICE agents and all those things, like the bulk of protesters are zero threat. And so it's like to think that we're out there to cause like violence is preposterous. You know, of course, there's going to be some people, but that's the thing that conservative and Republicans like to do. They like to make the exception the rule. But the rule is we're just people that want to live. I talked about this last time or recent. It's like we just want to exist, you know, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. So what I hope, what needs to happen is the college age younger people and younger, from like 25 and younger, need to be mobilizing a lot more. And the 65, the retireds. So the 25 and youngers and the retireds need to be the most active, showing up on the streets. Because the people like us, the people like me, it's really fucking hard to mobilize because we're caught in that, you know, we have to pay our rent. We have to do all that shit. So we can't just, until it's clear that everybody's going to shut the system down, I can't just say, hey, I'm not going to go to work anymore because I'm protesting. Like it wouldn't help. It wouldn't help anybody. But until like all of our, like the whole student body decides to walk out because they're like, enough with this bullshit. Because they don't have anything to lose. There's nothing to lose. They're not going to get kicked out of school. They don't have anything to lose. They don't have jobs they have to worry about to the degree of like career jobs, you know? They don't have anything to lose, so they can make those kind of decisions of like, let's mobilize. Let's be the force. And there's not enough. of the younger generation doing it. And then the older generation as well. The older ones are the ones showing up, the retirees and all those, and like keep doing it. But they're also, it's harder for them to do it. So it's like until those two groups really come out in mass, then this middle area, the career people, can kind of get out there too. And you might be saying, well, that's bullshit, Zim. And maybe it is, but it would be helpful. I'll just put it that way. It would be helpful to get this kind of these messages out and happening, because then we need to, the people that are like in my position, just stop spending, which I have. Like, I'm not on Amazon. I'm not, I'm not spending. Like all these protests, I'm like defaulted into the financial protests because I'm just not, I'm already doing, well, I've made some decisions, but I'm also like, yeah, I never spent that way anyway. So, yeah, I'm really hoping, like, I've been hearing words about like a blackout in November, trying to like not spend money. Whenever I hear somebody talk about going Black Friday shopping, I'm like, no, don't shop. Don't buy anything. This year I'm planning to send cookies again for Christmas, so I'm not really going to buy gifts. I found that's learn how to cook and make something and send that to your family and friends for Christmas. Last but not least, we sold a t-shirt, baby. We sold a t-shirt. This t-shirt will be packed up and sent out today. This is called the Goodbye Kitty shirt. So if you want to get a t-shirt, I hardly sell t-shirts. Man, if I sold like 100, if I just got an order for like 100 t-shirts, that would change my life. But man, or even over the span of like a couple months, if I got 100 t-shirts over a couple months, that would change my fucking life. Like 100 t-shirts over like 3 months, 30 t-shirts a month. But I don't know. Whatever. We're just hustling the thing, man. We're just doing the thing. We're doing it. Thank you so much for allowing me to just yell at you for the last hour. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about anything I talked about today. And we'll catch up with you again soon. I'm sure I left stuff out that I should have shared with you, but I'll write it down for next week and we'll talk about it some more. As always, be loving, kind, and patient. Peace, my friends. Bye.